Hi, and welcome to today's episode of Live Healthy Now. I hope you're having a great week so far, and I'm really grateful that you've chosen to listen to the podcast today. We've got a great guest with you today. I'm delighted to bring Mike Cole to talk to you today and share with you so many great insights about how he juggles many things whilst running his own business, including working alongside his wife, homeschooling his children, managing his neurodivergent, and really balancing his health above anything else. And so we're going to dive really deeply into how Mike supports himself and his family to have a healthy lifestyle. So welcome to the podcast, Mike.
Hello, thank you so much for having me on. It's an absolute pleasure to be here.
Yeah, great. I'm really looking forward to our chat. I know we've spoke a couple of times and we've really connected on some of the things that we both stand for, especially around supporting our kids and family to live a healthy lifestyle. So yeah, we'll explore that and share with the audience lots more on that. But just to kick off with all of my guests, I like to ask them what their most impactful healthy habit is.
This is it's such a good question. Most impactful feels like I need to prioritize them all. So let me just pick a very strong one and kind of go from there. For me, does this sound like a habit? I think it is. It's really embracing who I am and how my brain works. So we talked about being neurodivergent and what you mentioned on the start, and that means that I guess I approach things differently from most people, but it means my brain works in a way that I can use to my advantage or I can suffer. So if I try and do things exactly as, let's say, most people would do, that can cause me quite a lot of difficulty. They probably wouldn't know, they probably wouldn't see that, but from my side I know that's harder work. If I adjust something and do it in a different way, I'll give an example in a sec, actually, it'll help. Then suddenly for me that changes my world and changes my life. And so let me give an example. If someone asks me a spur of the moment question I've never considered before, it takes me a little bit of time to think about it and process it. If somebody asks me a question, gives me a small moment of time to think about it, which could be literally a minute, but if you left me half an hour, that would be ideal. I will come back with a much better answer. The fascinating thing is I don't need to think about it in that 30 minutes. I just need to be aware of the question and move on. I do something totally different. I come back and I'm like, oh, this is my answer to that. Which means, funnily enough, if you answer me that question again at the end, I might come up with something more inspired. I don't know. The funny thing about that is I can build that into my day and actually build it into my day in a way that most people don't even notice. And that's ideal. And so a really key thing for me for being healthy, and it's just, I guess, mentally healthy, is recognizing that's how I am. It's just one of a whole bunch of different traits. And if I use that to my advantage, actually I do sort of better than maybe my peers or than people would expect. If I don't use it to my advantage, I will do worse. That makes sense? So if I lean into it, it works really well for me.
Yeah, I really like that. And I definitely want to explore that as part of our conversation because, there's so many things that do make up our health and there's so many foundations that we need, like putting the right fuel into our bodies and moving our bodies and things like that. But what is often overlooked by so many are the things that really impact our mental well-being. And lots of those things are the way we treat ourselves, which come from understanding ourselves. So I really like that you've shared that because I don't think I've had a guest who's ever given a habit of that kind before. Mm-hmm. And they are ones that are very important. So yeah, let's dive right into it then and talk more about the work that you do and, how that started with yourself and understanding these needs that you have, that you need to take care of to, one, enable you to function in your business and be successful as a business owner, but two, to feel healthy as an individual.
Yeah, absolutely. And one of the things I find quite fascinating about these conversations and just the dialogue going on at the minute around neurodivergence and neurodiversity. Well, let's not worry about the difference, but we can kind of put them all in one bracket and for now and say, and that's totally fine. The idea of how do you function with it is possibly the wrong way of looking at it, because it sounds, maybe I'm being unfair. It's probably not the wrong way of looking at it, but it sounds a bit like, oh, that sounds really difficult. Oh, that must stop you. It's often talked about as almost a handicap. And I think that's often how it's described. It's a learning difficulty. That's how it's described. Well, is it a difficulty? What it is learning in the typical way that we learn, as in a school format, in the prescribed way that we are expected to learn. Yes, okay. It can cause difficulty learning in that environment. Funnily enough, for me, it didn't. The way I was picked up is maybe a fascinating story in its own right. For others in my family, it absolutely does present that way. So it's maybe a part of that question is how do we embrace it to make the most of it without looking at it as some sort of handicap, but rather looking at it as some people call it a superpower. Maybe I don't like that phrasing either, but that idea of like using the strength within it to make a real difference and leaning away from the weakness from it. So I've mentioned to you before we came on the call, actually, instant questions just off the start to sort of shake up a conversation actually unsettles me, which is why you gave me a little bit of heads up about that first question, because it just works really well for how we flow forwards. And that it's things like that make all the difference. If I'm confident enough to own it, so if I'm confident enough to say, this is how I am, and actually I can bring brilliance as a result. So if we can work it in this way, I can bring my brilliance. Is that okay with you? And hopefully you then go, yeah, of course, Mike, that's what I want. That's what I want from you today. And that's what people listening want. So let's work it in that way. And I think, yes, that's really relevant for neurodivergent and really relevant in that space, neurodivergent space. But I think that's relevant for everybody, because a neurotypical person still thinks, one neurotypical person still thinks differently to another neurotypical person. In fact, some of the things, the character traits that make me me and make me really special have nothing to do with my dyslexia, which is what's going on for me. And I think everything just to do with my personality. I use that still. So, and that's just as relevant it's relevant for everybody. I guess that's my kind of angle for that. The healthy bit possibly links in the same way. The more confident we are about who we are, the more we accept who we are. And I guess acceptance is, it's recognizing that we are this way and it's okay, and then looking for how we can be better. So I'm not suggesting we should accept if we don't like something about ourselves. But fine, have a look at what you can do about it. That's okay. But if the more we accept, actually, this is how I am, this is how my brain works, and there's some real strengths to that. And if I acknowledge, I'm so lucky I have these incredible strengths. I use them all the time. I love it. They're brilliant. Well, actually, that makes me more resilient. It gives me more confidence. I'm more able to deal with that kind of maybe other mental challenges that come along, going, yeah, but I'm okay because I'm good in this space. I can be rubbish in that space, but I'm okay because I'm great in this space. So mentally, that gives me a huge boost. And mental health, I'm a huge advocate of. I think it's so important. So yeah, I see that playing out really nicely.
Yeah, that's so powerful, isn't it? Because self-acceptance is a huge part of building a healthy lifestyle. It's something I do talk about a lot. The importance of valuing yourself and believing in yourself so that you can accept yourself, and the ripple effect that has onto your confidence, your resilience, your capability, and so on. And yeah, there's so much that's coming through as you were talking there that resonates with me and my story as well. I've got a long corporate background like yourself. I really struggled with anxiety and my mental health for all of those years I was in corporate, and I felt a lot of shame around it. And as you were talking, I was thinking, yeah, there was a lot of things in me, about me and just how I am as a person, that I felt impacted my confidence and self-belief. Things like being a perfectionist and being very detail orientated, very process driven. there were things, you know, that would come back in my mid-year and end-of-year appraisals that I would take on board in such a negative way, and they would impact how I felt, which in turn then impacted my health, because I was beating myself up and giving a lot of negative self-talk about, oh my God, why are you like that? You know, why are you so detailed? Why are you so, you know, much of a perfectionist, and so on. And that's been a thread through many, many years of my life. Actually, before I even started work in my family, I was called out as the perfectionist, you know, and so you're right that there's so much there that you can critique yourself on and hold yourself back on, which actually are skills which, if you use them and mentally accept them in a certain way, can be very powerful for who you are. And so just, you know, one of the things I was thinking as you were talking there, Mike, was there ever a time where how you were did negatively impact you in terms of your performance at work and then your mental health because of that?
So let me just clarify, was that how I was working? Or
yeah, you know, because of the way you are in yourself with the dyslexia and you know, as you said, just as any individual has different skills, ways of thinking and operating. Yeah, was there a time when it actually did really cause challenges for you?
I guess it has caused challenges through my life at various moments. So before retraining as a coach or adding coaching to my skill set, I am a chartered accountant. I did the chartered accountancy exams. They are very intense. They involve memorizing huge quantities of data in a very short amount of time, or information in a short amount of time. And the actual exams are incredibly pernickety. Very deliberately, they've set the bar very, very high. That does not play to my strengths at all. That is pushing most of the dyslexia buttons. And although they give you extra time in exams, you don't get... If I get 25% extra time for, you know, on a paper, they don't give me 25% extra learning time. So actually, great, I've got this extra writing time, but not the learning. Now, I know the counter to that, people say, well, you don't get that in life. You don't get 25% longer than anyone else against a deadline. And you don't. But the things that made me an excellent finance professional, the things that make me an excellent coach, have nothing to do with how well I can consume information and how quickly. They are certainly not from learning from others in the way of those sort of exams. I guess that comes back to why they call it a learning difficulty, because the application that I then bring. So in my career, corporate career, so to speak, I spent a lot of time going job to job within a company because there was a fire. And they're like, we need someone to go and put that fire out. Mike, you're up. You're in. Go sort it. And I'd walk into a situation that others had tried to fix and failed. And I'd literally just see the answer in front of me. It would just be blatantly obvious to me. Well, you do this. And I just do it. And magically the fire goes out. In fact, not only does magically the fire go out, but it's almost like it becomes an ice cream factory or something. Like it goes the other way from being hot. And suddenly it's producing everything it needs to, and it's working really, really well. And they're like, that's absolutely incredible. We've got a fire over there. Guess what? You know, and I did really well out of my career as a result. I did lots of really fascinating things. I regularly got to get involved in new projects. I'm pretty convinced, I've not tested this theory, but I'm pretty convinced that if they knew I was dyslexic and some of the challenges I had, they wouldn't have given me all those opportunities. So, for example, one of the things that caused me harm was the number of emails I would get in a day. I think I would get about 110 emails a day, roughly.
Yeah.
Now, every email, I can't skim read. I just want to be really clear. Dyslexia represents differently in different people. So what I'm going to say about my dyslexia is not true for someone else with dyslexia. Necessarily, it might be, but it might not be. And within my own family, other members are dyslexic, and it presents very differently, which is kind of fascinating for me and hopefully for others. So I can't skim read. It means that I have to look at every single word. In fact, I was blown away when my kids were given an exercise and this lady showed a paragraph, put a pencil on a single word and said, look at that word and tell me what is, you know, how much of the paragraph or how much of the sentence can you read? I remember afterwards going, one word, surely. Like, what do you mean? No. Like, a human brain, a typical human brain that looks at a single word will be able to sense what the words are around it. It's the way the brain processes. Some people are better at it than others. So just because you can't do that doesn't necessarily mean you're dyslexic. I don't want to freak anyone out, but it is one of the kind of indicators, one of the signs. I'm like, I can just read the word you're pointing your pencil at. I've got almost no idea. I know there's words around, but I don't know what they say. I've got literally no idea. So that's a great illustration that if I get an email and I need to read it, I need to read every word in the email. So that's tiring. I can't skim read. I can make assumptions I can skim read articles because I literally read a few words and assume I know what the rest of the sentence is going to be. It's not brilliant for learning. It's not excellent either. Modern communication is getting simpler, and I think that's a real benefit. So I think things are cleaner, they're shorter paragraphs, they're simpler words. That makes it easier for me. But that number of emails was a problem. I didn't want to tell anyone I had dyslexia because I thought it might be used against me, or I might not get those opportunities, particularly if those opportunities involve massive documents that need reading, which, by the way, I was really good at. I was really good at them because I read every word. I didn't like flick through thinking. My brain basically didn't cheat. It had to read every single word and then would go, well, that doesn't make sense. Or more accurately, you say this, which makes me think you're trying not to say that. They're like, oh no, that's right. We're trying not to say we're about to close a site because that's going to cause panic. Well, this is what it says to me. It doesn't say it. It sounds like you're justifying it in a way that, anyway. And they're like, okay, that's really helpful insight. So that's all part of using what some would see as a weakness. Actually, there's a strength in there. So I don't want to discount reading because reading's really powerful. I prefer someone to text me or email me than send me a voice note. Again, it's weird, but it doesn't stick in my brain as well on a voice note as it does a text, and I can read it quicker. But it's more tiring. So how do I get around this conundrum? Simple. Get people to stop emailing me so often. So stop copying me into emails that I don't really need to. They're having a conversation, then I just want to know what the outcome is. I don't care. So tell me you're having the conversation and don't email me again until you've got to a conclusion. And if in the meantime I need to know where it is, I'll ask you. The other thing I did is I applied a 24-hour filter. This was brilliant. I love this one. So I believe, and I'm a coach now, and I coach people to set your work environment in the way you want it to work. So for me, I don't want people to email me, and I definitely don't want people to email me when it's urgent. I want them to email me a piece of information that I can consume at some point. If it's urgent, I'd much prefer more of an urgent text or something. And fundamentally, let's have a call, let's discuss it, let's be really clear of the problem and we'll solve it. Unless it's that IT doesn't work, in which case fine, I'll jump on and sort it out. So I applied a 24-hour filter, which is anything that came in that wasn't from someone incredibly senior, or that it wasn't marked urgent in massive capital letters in burning platform, solve. I just left for 24 hours. And the number of those emails, which actually there'd be 4 others relating to it. So I'd only have to read the top one and know where it is, and I could delete the other 3. Or someone had asked me something and they'd solved their own problem within 24 hours. I didn't even need to do it. And I had this recently as a small business owner. I noticed I was getting billed incorrectly for some IT stuff. And they'd billed me, it hadn't applied a discount, it's worth about 20 quid a month. And I was like, I need to get on that. It happened one month, fine, it's only 20 quid, I'll get to it. Happened another month, I really need to do that. All right, I'll get on it. And just before the third, when I thought I really need to sort this out, they emailed me and went, we noticed we've incorrectly billed you. So we've refunded it, given you a token for saying sorry. I didn't have to do anything. There's moments where we can kind of dampen our own noise and reduce the admin and the burden. But for me, it's driven out of emails, but it can have some other positive effects. Does that kind of make sense?
Yeah, it does. And, obviously working with lots of other small business owners, do you see that people are being impacted because there's kind of this pressure to conform? The email example is a great one where many of us, whether we own a business or not, certainly I know in my corporate job, I was probably racking up 100 plus emails a day as well, but just in general in life, how busy everything is. And then when you set up your own business, the type of people you work with, they've got then the extra pressure of running their business and this belief that you've got to conform, you've got to reply quick, you've got to keep on top of trends, you've got to be visible and seen. And do you see people coming to you with overwhelm and stress, and then obviously on the back of that, potentially both physical and mental health issues? And, what are the patterns that you see with people struggling with those kinds of pressures?
Yeah, so there's an awful lot of these shoulds, right? Because what do we know is important in customer service? Getting back to people really quickly. So if someone emails you, you should get back to them within half an hour, 10 minutes, 5 minutes. Like, the quicker you get back to them, it's better, isn't it? It's more important. You should meet people face to face or on Zoom. You should do this, do that, the other. You should be on social media all the time. You should show up on Instagram Lives. I'm trying to think of some others. There's a whole bunch of different things that, if you are an extrovert who likes being on camera, get yourself on Instagram Lives, because they're great, right? That'll tick the buttons. It will push what motivates you. You'll feel lit up and excited, and you'll gain followers who like that about you and maybe even want to emulate that. If the idea of doing that literally makes you feel sick, then forcing yourself to do that day in, day out is going to lead to a very negative experience. It's going to impact your mental health. It'll go one of two ways, actually. You'll either realize that you can get over it and it's all okay and it's all right, or it's just going to grate and you're going to get lower and lower and sadder and zap more and more of your energy away. I absolutely see people in this space. I see people coming and working with me who have set their business up because that's what they think they should do. They think this is the way that you have to work. And coaches using Zoom is a great example. So I set my whole business up pre-pandemic. It was about 3 months old when the pandemic hit. Yay. To do everything remotely. I spent lots of time in the corporate world running teams that were spread across 4 countries, and a whole bunch of different countries at different times. The most was 4. I'm used to doing things remotely, so I was really game for doing it. And I have a testimonial that I think was from February 2020 saying how this Zoom thing is actually quite useful, and actually it does work. Like, you might think it'd be better meeting in real life, but it's really good. They'll have said in person, because no one said in real life back then. It's amazing how quickly that dated and how Zoom became this absolute standard thing to use. But if Zoom gives you a headache, then why can't you coach on a phone call? Of course you can. Why don't you coach on Voxer? Of course you can. If you want to use WhatsApp messages, of course. Find the way that works for you, and then set out the expectation of this is how we can make it work. And you will find the clients that want to work that way. Because for some other clients, they won't want to be on Zoom. They'll want to do it as a voice call, or doing it going for a walk, or meeting in a local cafe. Some will hate that, some will love it. And if you find the thing that works for you, then you've got a really good chance of trying to find the people that will work for, and having that life that you actually want, like working in a way that really suits you. I had another example in my head and it's just skipped, which is part of my dyslexia and my awful memory, which is why I scribble things down. You've probably noticed me writing because we've got little notes and thoughts.
It's a good tool to have, yeah. And I think the thing with this is to take a step back, to be able to put some of these tools and habits in place to help you to feel more in control and reduce stress and have a positive impact on your health. You have to be aware of those, don't you? And I think, certainly as a coach as well, and you'll say this, so many people never give that a thought. If you aren't someone who's spent a lot of time on personal development or had coaching, you've probably never given it a thought. And, this shows up in lots of ways, not just in a practical sense of how you operate and organise your work and so on, but when it comes to the food you eat or whether you exercise, or, there's all these shoulds. Oh, well, I should lose weight and I should get outside for a walk. I should, go to the gym. They're the main ones people fix. And I should drink less. I should give up smoke, but people don't pause to go, actually, what do I need? Like, what for me works? Because one of the big things, which might be a good example to use, is a lot of people will come to me or talk about it in my community and say, I hate exercise. Okay, why do you hate exercise? It's because maybe they've only ever tried going to the gym, or they've tried these HIIT classes. And I know a couple of people immediately spring to mind who go, oh my God, I absolutely detest the thought of being in my living room where I like to relax, jumping around to someone on a big television in front of me. Just cannot do it, you know. But it's like, okay, take a step back. Who are you? What works for you? What do you need? And so I think that's a big message to get through to people, isn't it? Whether it's in your work life, in a practical sense, or with any other part of just what's going to make you happy and fulfilled, is to get clear about what works for you, what feels good, because that's a big piece of the puzzle, isn't it? And it's the missing piece. Yeah,
hugely so. Yeah. So actually, I'll use tennis as an example for me. So I hate running, by the way. Like, running is soulless to me. My brother absolutely loves running. It is both physical and mental for him. He's a bit of an endurance runner. He likes, like, a 60-mile run is the idea of a good day for him.
Wow.
Or was that a weekend? I'm not quite sure. But anyway, he's like, you know, running for a bus is probably like the extreme of what I would do. And I typically drive, so I don't normally need to do that either. I don't know what it is about running. It doesn't appeal. I've been getting back into tennis, and I've realised that I actually really, really don't like singles tennis. Like, I pretty much hate singles tennis. It's taken me a while to realise why, and it's because singles tennis is me versus you. Like, there is going to be a winner and a loser, and it is about my skill and ability compared to your skill and ability, and I don't actually like that. So I've been playing quite a lot of cardio tennis, and cardio tennis at David Lloyd, I'm sure other versions exist, and I think it's like kids tennis. So you hit a ball and you run, right? You hit a ball and you switch side of the court, you knock it in the net, you've got it all switch, you know, which side of the net you are, and there's just all this different stuff you do, and you keep switching partners that you're with. And I found certain ones, particularly the daytime ones actually, more probably than the evening ones, feel really supportive and encouraging. If you do a good shot, if your opponent does a good shot, you know, we're all clapping and applauding and being like, yeah, that was an awesome shot. You know, well, that was really good. Well done. But we're all doing it for each other, regardless of, it's not about winning. It's just about us all bringing and enjoying it and bringing, you know, well, I guess developing, you know, getting better at what we do. And it highlights to me the importance of community and having the right people around you. The importance that you want people that cheer you along, preferably that get it. Because I think one of the things as a small business owner, lots of our friends who aren't small business owners just don't really understand. It looks like we go on a lot of jollies. And this sort of networking stuff. Well, yeah, but you're forever out chatting to somebody, you know? Yeah, but that's how it works. Oh, you get paid a lot per hour. Yeah, but you've got to look at the whole thing. Like, it's not just the delivery, it's everything that goes with it. So yeah, there's a lot I think they don't understand. So having the right supportive people around you, I think, is really, really important. I think doing the right work is really important, and having the right environment. Like, literally, I was talking about, you know, Voxer or Zoom or whatever. Some of it's that, but there's so much that goes into these different things. Can I do a little plug at this point, coincidentally?
You can, yes.
There are so many different things that go into this that I've made a little quiz to try and help
everyone
people.
Loves a quiz, don't they?
Everyone loves a quiz. Yeah, just 12 questions, 3 different areas, and it's to try and help look at almost what's missing in your life to help you really unlock the special person that you are. I love the idea of, you know, the world needs us to be more of who we are. You know, be more you, effectively. And the quiz is a really nice way of just trying to see, is there something missing? You can get a pat on the back if you don't have anything missing. It's like, woohoo, that's really cool. But if there is anything missing, give some ideas as well about what you could maybe do about it. So I know there's some link with the show notes, well worth going and checking out.
Yeah, that sounds like a great thing to do, because as we say, that awareness piece is key, because so many people just jump to the end stage of, well, I'm going to go to the gym, or I'm going to get out for a walk, I'm going to join, you know, a art class or something that they think, oh, that's the answer to feeling better. And quite often they don't get the result that they're looking for. And so, you know, tapping into what you really need, you know, what are those priorities that are going on for you right now that would make the biggest difference? And then ultimately, who are you? Like you say, you don't want to be out pounding the pavements, but you've found something through that tennis club which is fun. It's ticking many boxes, because you're moving your body, you're laughing, and we know laughter's a big plus for feeling well. the community side, you're right, is a huge part. It's one of the biggest pieces in how people feel. You know, there's so much now coming out through science and research about the impact of loneliness and how it reduces our lifespan. So being part of a community in that tennis example is a great thing, you know, because you've found something that then is driving you forward to keep moving your body, whereas if running was the only option, you'd detest it and you'd hate it. And although, yes, you'd be getting some of the physical benefits, you're not going to get very much benefit from it overall for your well-being, because it's painful and unenjoyable. So, yeah, I think that that's a real strong message to take away there, and the quiz could be a great thing to use as a starting tool and get clear on what you might need. So just to kind of... Oh, go on, Mike. Yeah.
Oh, no, well, I was going to say community, I think. So the tennis is a nice community, but it's almost a sort of sports one. I think making sure that you've got the people you need around you to help you. And help, I don't mean to tell you what to do or to... I was going to say not necessarily to hold your hand, but it's to feel part of something. And so that as small business owners, we're often almost on our own. I work with my wife, so I'm lucky in that way. But it's good to then feel wrapped into another community that's going to help encourage and nurture and take you forwards. I mean, I would say this because I run one, so I guess I'm biased, but I actually run one which suits me really well. Like I get a huge amount out from myself, and I think that's, it's really, really helpful.
Yeah, the community piece is so important on well-being, and what that looks like and where that shows up is huge as well. You know, you've got a family, you've got friends, you've got work. Obviously we spend a lot of time at work. A lot of our life is spent through, you know, work. And something I know when I used to work at Nike, a lot of people were so passionate about the Nike family, you know, the work family. And I just didn't get that. And for many years, I wasn't bought into that. Yes, I had friends and relationships with people at work, but that wasn't really something that I felt was important. That did change, and that change did have a much greater impact on how I felt in myself, especially in the latter years. I really did kind of wrap myself in this ethos of being part of that community and group for lots of different support. So I think, finding a community or communities across the different areas of your life is definitely important. And for you, working at home, apart from when you're out on your little networking trips and so on, being home-based, as a lot of people are, or even hybrid working, you're in your home with your family every day because you work alongside your wife and you homeschool your kids. So how do you find balance with that as well? Because for a lot of people, when COVID did hit, suddenly being at home full time was unbearable and you know, did cause challenges. For some others, it was more of a joke type thing that, oh God, you know, 24/7 is too much. So, you know, how have you as a family navigated that and balanced that for your health and well-being?
Yeah, great question. And it's changed quite a lot. The pandemic affected us too. In part, before the pandemic, probably half the kids' stuff was in person, and we did a lot of trips. And I think typically through winter, we often end up spending much more time in the house, and then typically through spring, summer, and into autumn, we do a lot of trips. Particularly back then, the kids were a bit younger. We've home educated now for 6 or 7 years. I'm losing track. And so, you know, 3-4 years ago, they were younger. We could do more learning on the road. Let's go see something. Let's go somewhere and do some learning as part of it without it feeling forced learning, if you know what I mean. Obviously, the pandemic stopped all that. We felt trapped, probably like everyone else. And then as it's opened back up again, it's easy to lose those old habits and to miss. So the kids' learning switched entirely online, almost entirely online, and it remains almost entirely online.
Right.
In a way, it's great because we can do that from anywhere. We have done it from different places before. For example, we're in the Midlands, but we've been over in Wales for a week, and they've been able to dial in and do key learning while we've been out exploring somewhere. So some huge pluses. The downside, of course, is that we don't walk anywhere. We don't have to. They don't even have to go catch a bus, walk between classrooms. They're literally in their rooms potentially all day, and likewise, you know, My wife and I have got an office in the garden, and we spend a huge amount of time in here. We love what we do, but we can spend quite a lot of time in here. One of the things we've changed, and a tip I would give as well, actually, is to think of if there's something you're not doing, and we weren't spending enough time going back out. So in lockdown, every day we went for our one walk because we were allowed to, or the guided one walk or whatever it was. We followed that, and we kind of made the point because it felt like the very minimum. Now we can go out whenever we like. Possibly we don't go out every day in the same way that we were. So what we've started doing, we reflected on this coming into the new year, and we said, right, let's take one thing we want to change. So we want to be going out for these walks. Rather than saying we want to do a walk every day, because that's quite a change, let's just find a kind of a small bit that we can do. Let's do a walk every 3 days. We're going to make sure we go out as a family, go out for a walk. Let's put it in our diary. And if we diarise that, I hate that phrase. If we put it in our diary, scheduled it in. Planned it, right. If we commit that in, we can make our work fit around it. So obviously we've got to avoid when the children are in an active lesson, like there's a group of them all dialing into a Zoom. But there's loads of gaps in the day where they're doing work. Well, we can just work around it. We can do the same with our own work. If we fill it with the stuff we normally fill it with, and then look for an aligned gap between 4 people's diaries in a single day, it doesn't happen. It's too hard. And so we end up with a few of us going, or one of us going, and that's not the same. So it's shifting the priority and saying, this thing I don't do, if I get a small bit of it and put that at the top priority, that's the thing I plan in first. Now what happens around it? I've started doing it with the tennis. I got incredibly busy come September last year, which is a blessing. It's a great thing. And the tennis dropped. And then come the new year, I'm like, no, right, I just need to put it in. And then I know I will do the work I need to around that, because I love my work, and I will spend lots of time happily doing the stuff I do. The other boundary, so that's just a little tip, the way we approached it. The other sort of boundary challenge we have, because we home educate, so we talk about schooling effectively, or education, because my wife and I work together, and then we've got hopefully fun family activities as well to find, plus the boring housework kind of stuff to find. And my wife and I are quite different people. That's fantastic. I love that about her, and I like the fact we work together and bring something different in our work. But she's a morning person. Her brain is alive first thing in the morning. That's fantastic. I'm an evening person. My brain is alive much more then. We have to be very mindful about when we talk to each other about mind complex stuff, proper thinking things. So because mine will be lighting up come 8-9 o'clock, I might have all these ideas, but if I share them with my wife, she's in the wrong energy space to take that piece of information in. But what it's done is it's fired her work mind back up. It's not productive for her. Now she's going to find it harder to sleep and switch off. Likewise, if she wants a great answer from me, don't ask me at 8 o'clock in the morning to make some sort of inspired decision. I can do some work, but I don't coach that early in the morning, for example. I don't do anything sort of actively before 10. I do work, I do emails, and I do some sort of simple stuff, but I don't do hard stuff before 10, because I know that I am at my best from 10. It's just one of those things. So understanding that about ourselves, and then talking about it so we're clear, and then leaning into it so I know, she knows, and then we can really harness that and work that well. And then I guess a lot of it's scheduling. So we're clear about when we're doing what with the kids and who's where, and that's there's a wall planner in the house which pretty much shows where everyone is, and in a big level. Doesn't have every meeting, but conceptually, who's away or who's here, or what's going on. Yeah,
and that talk of planning and setting yourself up for success is key in whatever new habit and routine you're trying to embed into your life. The planning is one of the 7 steps I use to help people build habits. And there's lots of different ways you can plan, because, again, talking about people being individual and having different ways of thinking and operating, some people hate the idea of a plan, but a plan doesn't have to be something on the wall. It doesn't have to be a physical calendar. You know, there's lots of ways that you can support yourself. It might be a prop, you know, having your gym clothes, for example, on the end of the bed, or a journal by the kettle so you remember to journal. So there's lots of different ways you can plan. And I think the key theme I've picked up through our conversation, Mike, is, you know, in whatever area of your life it is, that's going to impact your health. That's the first takeaways. You know, everything is, you know, inputting to the output, whatever it is, whether it's work, your family life, you and how you think about yourself. So, and then the second thing on the back of that is then finding, you know, what you need to be more effective, productive, happy in each area of your life. And then the third thing, which is probably where you should start from, though, is the awareness, is that self-awareness, isn't it? Is understanding you know, for example, are you someone that likes a process and a plan or not? If you're not, okay, well, what would support you then instead of that? What, you know, hack can you put in place for yourself? And, you know, I just think, yeah, that there's a great message coming out of this, which is what I advocate and drive is, you know, your healthy lifestyle is yours. It's, you get to choose the tools that are in that toolbox based on what you need. And what you do is someone supporting others in business to be more effective and successful is exactly that, is who are you? What are you about? What do you need? What's going to work for you? So that you do feel in harmony with how you are as a person, to not only tick the business goals in terms of those practical ones you've set, but in your health, because we all, you know, want to enjoy the output of what we're putting into our lives through, for many of us, which is through jobs and of our own businesses. But we only get to, you know, enjoy the fruits of our labour, so to speak, if we're in a good, healthy place to do so, aren't we? So, yeah,
totally,
hopefully that summed it up.
It sums it up brilliantly, I think, yeah. Starting with the awareness, totally, and then moving into how you use it, what it does. One of the things that sprung to mind as you mentioned that, you said productivity and happiness, and I do wonder if people look at those as... So I'm a huge fan, right, of the happier we are. We want to be happy, we want to be productive. I think we can chase productivity at the detriment of happiness. We can
absolutely,
put the kettle on and check our emails, thinking, well, I'm being more productive. But actually, it can, for some, that might work, but for lots, it'll just slightly take more mental load out, or mental load in, and more energy out, and we're just zapping ourselves. The thing I think we can miss is the happier we are, the more productive we are. When we are really happy, when we are on fire, and we're excited and we're passionate and we're like, yes, this is it, this is really good fun, I'm enjoying this, that's when we're at our most productive. And so rather than chasing productivity, I think if we chase some happiness and it comes to exactly the stuff you've said, then we'll get productivity out of it. And that means it will pay for itself. We can chase happiness and it will pay for itself.
Yeah, absolutely. And happiness is something that I talk about a lot because, you know, people are searching for happiness. They're waiting for happiness when they've got the things they want, whatever those goals are, whether it's to lose weight, to make a 6-figure revenue in my business this year, or, you know, people wait and think that thing will deliver the happiness on a plate for them. And we know that that isn't the case. They might achieve the goal, but they probably aren't going to feel happy, or they feel happy in the moment they've realised they've achieved the goal, but then back to square one. And, you know, it's the same in terms of your health, is that when you become happy, you will become healthier because your happiness affects your health. And like you said, with productivity, you know, and so many other things, like your confidence builds when you are happier. Your productivity, your feeling of fulfillment in life, your ability to perform and be productive. So, yeah, I think that's a great message to kind of wrap up with on the happiness is, yeah, you think that the things you need to do will bring happiness. Actually, we need to do other things to feel happy, and then we'll be able to perform and deliver on the goals that we've all got in our lives. So I've really enjoyed the conversation, Mike. I think there's some great things come out there, and definitely that quiz on starting to get clear about what might be missing is a key thing, you know, for people to do. And you can link to that through the show notes and start Mike's quiz and see what comes up for you. So yeah, if you just want to share a little bit about where people can find you, and I'll pop everything into the notes as well, Mike.
Fantastic. Yeah. So probably the easiest thing, I'm going to make a special webpage. I have made, because this is now out, isn't it? I have made a special webpage for anyone listening to go along to. If they went to thismikecole.com, this Mike Cole, because there's many, many Mike Coles, but I'm this one, thismikecole.com/live healthy now, all one word. And there's a special page there. It has a link to the quiz. It says a bit about me. It's got some social connections. If they want to come and connect with me on their favourite platform, then they're welcome to. So head out to that page and go check that out. That'd be fantastic.
Oh, amazing. I love that we've got our own page. Thank you for that. Easy for everyone to find. So thanks again, Mike. It's been a pleasure, and I hope, if you're listening, you've took something away that can inspire you to at least make one little change in your life to feel better and live healthier now. So thanks, Mike.
Thanks for having me on. Great to be here.